Welcome back to Radio Row. It's Front Office Sports covering all of the biggest news for you the week before the Super Bowl. I'm Dan Roberts, and I've got Kevin Demoff, the president of Kroenke Sports Entertainment. Kevin, thanks for joining me.
Our pleasure. Great to be here. Wish we were playing still, but if not, hanging out with you guys is a close second.
You almost were playing.
We should have been.
It was very close. Pats Seahawks instead. I will disclose my biases. I'm a Pats fan. I'm from the New England area.
I think we're all Pats fans this week.
Whoa!
Probably that's not true.
Breaking a little news here.
Yeah, breaking a little news. No, you know what? The Seahawks deserve great credit. They've been a great team all year, and they're so well run overall. Chuck Arnold, John Schneider, they do a great job. So I just want everybody to go home unhappy because that's where we are. So you want to break news? I hope no one wins. It's the first ever Super Bowl to end in a tie.
That's good, Kevin. I like that. No ties here. Let's start with some actual news. It just came out this week. The Rams and the Niners are going to play the first NFL game in Australia. We've been asking all the players about the aggressive international expansion of the NFL. You know, it's a corny joke, but I say it's becoming the International Football League instead of the National Football League. What's going to go into playing a game in Australia?
Well, I think the first is, for us, how do you take a team and fly 16 hours? Nobody has traveled that far for a game so far in the NFL. It's far, right? So how do you make sure it's the best experience for the players so they can perform their best, but also so that we can credibly say playing games in Australia, playing games in the Pacific Rim, be it Korea, Japan, China, is possible, right? That it's not just West Coast teams who are going. So I think being guinea pigs for that, this year we played a game in London against the Jaguars. We stayed on the East Coast all week. We became the latest team to fly into London. We got there basically 26 hours before kickoff, coming from Baltimore, played in London, 135-7, came home, right? And so I think for us, the sports science of how we travel, how we make sure our players have a first-class experience, but Melbourne's going to be a great host. Obviously, they're well known to hosting global sporting events. We all just watched the Australian Open. It's a great place to be. They have the F1 race. So we're excited to be able to go there and play and hopefully start the season with a win over the 49ers.
Let's talk a little bit about facilities. I mean, SoFi in some ways has become kind of the model. I mean, you now have to have not just a terrific arena or stadium. It can't just be a building where you're playing 8 games a year. You have to have real estate around the stadium, a shopping area, a whole kind of cultural center, right? And we're seeing a trend with a lot of teams either moving or threatening to move, considering moving out into the burbs where they can get more space to create an entire area, a destination. Is this the future at this point, that if you own a team, you also better invest in the real estate around the team?
Well, I think you want to own the whole experience from closet to closet, right? And one of the best ways you can do that is, how do your fans come before a game? How do they stay late? How do they really enjoy it? How do you make it about more than wins and losses, right? If it's just, and whether we see this at SoFi Stadium in Hollywood Park, and making sure the fans can come early, tailgate, go to Cosm, watch the early games and then leave, or what we're doing in Denver around Ball Arena, trying to do a massive expansion to bring people down earlier and stay later. I think you want to be about more than just the game. You want to make sure that you bring this experience, but also so that your fans think about, hey, maybe I'll go there when the team's on the road. Maybe I'll come when the team's not playing. I think if you look at the NFL, 8, 10 games a year, playoffs 13, where's the best use for that space? It's not a downtown. Baseball stadiums, arenas, where you're playing 80, 100 events, concerts, 200, those should be downtown to really bring those epicenters. For the NFL, it's great to be in the heart of the city. We're fortunate to be there in Inglewood, right smack dab in the middle of Los Angeles, but it is also hard to get that much land and parking. I think that's why you're seeing more people say, maybe I'll push to a different area so I can go build a true destination, whether it's Cleveland, whether it's what Denver's looking at, moving a little bit south, certainly what you're seeing in Kansas City. But then you also have people like the Commanders who are moving right back into the city, but still doing the mixed-use development. But I do think the mixed-use development is the wave of the future because it allows you to program beyond your stadium on a game day.
The minute this game ends, ESPN is on the clock for its first Super Bowl, and LA is on the clock. I don't know if you've been here all week. There are some mixed feelings about San Francisco and the Bay Area as a host city, but next year it's in LA. How is that going to work? Still a lot that is spread out, a little bit of traffic. What do you expect next year with the Super Bowl in LA?
There's going to be no traffic. The weather will be perfect. It's been 85 in LA all week. The Rams are going to win again, just like we did in 2022. So we're going to run back everything that happened in 22, same halftime show, same everything, right? But look, I think as the Super Bowl continues to grow, those challenges of traffic, of being spread out, they're the places that have compact centers, but they're also the places that need to grow and exist. And going back to our previous conversation about how many stadiums are going to be in the heart of downtown, maybe everybody doesn't have the distance of a San Francisco to a Santa Clara, but anywhere you look, whether it's Miami, whether it's Los Angeles, Nashville, obviously downtown, you're going to wind up with some distance. But I think the Super Bowl in LA in 2022 worked great. So many events downtown. Inglewood was only 15 minutes away. You had different epicenters. But even since 2022, Intuit Dome has been built. That Inglewood corridor continues to grow. Hollywood Park has continued to grow. So I think people are going to have a great experience. We get to hone our skills. We have World Cup this summer coming to SoFi Stadium. Then the Super Bowl, we'll finish it off with the Olympics in 2028. But LA is the sports and entertainment capital of the world. It is a great host for events like this. And, as the NorCal, SoCal rivalry, as someone who grew up in Southern California, I'm always happy to go bash, but I think the 49ers in the Bay Area have done an amazing job.
We've been talking mostly about football. The Kroenke sports portfolio is very wide. I mean, you mentioned the Nuggets, you've got NBA, you've got an NHL team. Is this going to be the model moving forward? Because the valuations are getting so high, and that's why you have private equity coming in. The number of individuals who can own a portfolio like that of multiple teams in the major sports, that number is really dwindling. But a Kroenke portfolio, a Ted Leonsis, these people who have 2 or 3 teams in the Big Four or arguably Big Five men's pro leagues, that is a real gem. And then you've got to own the real estate. What's the model moving forward with new ownership? I mean, reportedly the Seahawks are about to be for sale after this game. What do you see happening there?
Look, I think the question that you ask is correct. Is conglomeration the next wave of growth? Well, certainly if you're looking for the most likely buyers of sports teams, they're probably people who already own sports teams, right? No different than any other business that would exist. The hard part is, and if you look at, KSE, it would be impossible to accumulate the assets that Stan and the Kroenke family have accumulated, right? An NFL team in Los Angeles, an EPL team in London, 3 teams in Denver with the Avalanche, the Nuggets, and an MLS team. Like, you just could not find those gems of assets. Now, there are certainly groups that are growing, whether it's Fenway, whether it's Harrod Splitzer, whether it's Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment. I think that's going to continue to see people grow. Can they match the assets that Stan has accumulated? Probably not, but it's also not just the teams, right? We're fortunate enough, SoFi Stadium in Hollywood Park, major real estate development, we own the stadium. Denver, Ball Arena, Dick's Sporting Goods Park, we own the buildings. Emirates Stadium, we own the building in London, right? It's not just the teams, to go own all those assets. If someone set out to go replicate that right now, I think it'd be really expensive and hard to amass. Fortunately, Stan did it early enough. And for us, it's about how do we then get smarter about each team we own? How do we take the advantage of being, a large conglomerate and still be very nimble on the individual teams, but use the power of KSE to lift them all up?
What do the Kroenkes want to be in next that they're not in already?
That's a great question. You'd have to ask them. Look, I think there's growth throughout, whether you look at women's sports, whether you look at the idea of soccer clubs becoming multinational and some of those models. But I think for Stan and Josh, their focus is always going to be, we have 5 great teams, 6 of you include lacrosse. How do we make those teams better? How do we make the developments in the stadiums better? As you think about Ball Arena, think about Los Angeles, a new practice facility at the Rams that we're building in Woodland Hills. I think it's not about what's next. It's how do we continually get better at the teams we have and what we do. Obviously, the Rams had a great year. Arsenal, first place right now in the EPL and the Champions League, just advanced in the Carabao Cup. The Avalanche, the best record going in the Olympic break. For the NHL, the Nuggets, still pretty good despite some injuries, being 3rd in the West. But the Rapids about to kick off the season. It's about how do we get better, not what's next.
Okay. All right, Kevin, thanks so much.
Appreciate it, guys.
Great conversation.
Thank you.
Stick with us for more live from Radio Row.